Being the only person that lives near a cursed, murky, swamp-like lake sounds quite creepy, stupid, and moronic. I won't lie to you. It kind of is. Most of the time anyway, but I've come to realize that not everything here is all bad. A lot of it, in fact, is actually pretty cool. Even beneficial sometimes. My name is Howard Green. I'm 37, financially well off, but not quite what most people would call wealthy. I'm also unmarried with no kids. Some may see that as a negative. I don't. Everyone likes what they like. I had my house built right along the lake. It's nothing fancy, just about the size of an average farmhouse. As for the body of water right next to it, though, well, that's a different story entirely. To begin, the lake itself is actually deeper than the Mariana Trench, filled with all sorts of oddities and monstrosities from your most vivid nightmares. An array of different strange and surprising elements come into play here. It even has its own supernatural ecosystem. How would an average guy like me know all of this in the first place? Well, let's just say I have unusual sources. Weird sources. Sources that most people would call me crazy about for even acknowledging their existence. But that's not all. It's also heavily avoided, I should say. I have no idea as to why the government hasn't come and barricaded and fenced it off to all hell. Maybe they're just simply not interested? Oh well, I won't pretend to know how it all works. I guess it's far enough away from most infrastructure to not be seen as too much of a problem, but I still do get most utilities, thank God. I have to travel back to about 2008. It was not long after I had finished having the house built, probably a week or two from what I remember, but seeing as the house was brand new, I was in dire need of food for the place and was absolutely starving. So, of course, I wanted to stock my fridge and cabinets. I took a trip to the grocery store, leaving my flip phone at the time behind at home, which is an important detail, by the way. At the store, I go about my business, picking up the majority of everything I need. Food, toilet paper, soaps, and shampoos. The basics. Luckily, I already had the utensils covered. Knives, forks, spoons, all that jazz. After all that said and done, I simply head back home, genuinely enjoying the drive on the way. I'd say I'm a person that invites both the company of others and simultaneously loves basking in the isolation from the hustle and bustle. It's all about how I'm feeling at the moment, I guess. But whatever. I pull up into my freshly paved driveway. The new concrete feels smoother than butter underneath my tires. I get out after killing the engine, walking over to the trunk of my car to start grabbing my groceries. I'm a firm believer that it's definitely worth it to risk blood circulation to your arms in order to avoid taking more than 1 or 2 trips. I try to grab as much as I possibly can, sliding the plastic bags as far up my forearms as they will go, realizing midway through that I probably should have unlocked my front door first. It's always something with me. Speaking of which, I glance over to said front door while still standing next to my open trunk and see it's swung open. On the hinges and everything, but wide fucking open. Immediately, this makes my blood freeze because I know for a fact that I had shut and locked the dang thing before I left. It happens to puzzle me as well. Like I said, I'm the only one who lives anywhere near this lake. I start sliding the grocery bags off my forearms with great haste in my step, reaching into my left jeans pocket for where I thought my phone would be. But nope, nothing. Just an empty space with a few pebble-sized droplets of dirt at the bottom that felt admittedly gross against my fingertips. Shit, I cursed in a frustrated whisper, mentally kicking myself. But not all hope is lost. I quickly dart over to the back seat, throwing the door open and retrieving a baseball bat I had long since left behind in my younger days of playing on the field with my middle school buddies. I grabbed the bat like my life depends on it, which I thought it did at the time. I mean, can you really blame me? I'm just one guy out there alone with no sort of immediate help. Nonetheless, after having my good old melee weapon with me, I started marching up towards the front door, taking a peek through the windows to make sure no one was waiting to ambush me. I didn't see anything at first glance, but I wanted to be thorough, so I took a few more little looks. I wasn't about to let myself get stabbed in the face the second I stepped through the doorway like I was in some cheap horror movie. Once I'm assured that I won't get KO'd before I can even react, I shift my stance to a more combative one and step inside, creeping along the living room floor and trying to keep quiet as I keep the bat held firm, ready to swing if need be. Everything in the living room seems intact. Well, what little I had in there anyway. This didn't necessarily prove it wasn't a home invasion, but it was highly unlikely when you combine that and the isolation factor. Even at the time, I knew stuff wasn't adding up. I mean, who would actually come all the way out here just to rob an average home like this? Sure, it's right near a lake with an unobstructed view, which definitely upped the property value in most cases. But the house itself wasn't really anything to write home about, nor anything inside it. I swept every square inch of the living room just to be sure. My phone is upstairs in what would soon be my bedroom. I still didn't go up quite yet, mainly due to the fact that I heard a sudden, high-pitched, almost yelping noise coming from the kitchen. And the kitchen, of course, being right next to the living room. Running upstairs would mean I would have been seen and, by extension, chased by whatever was waiting me out over in the kitchen. I wanted to assume that maybe a coyote had perhaps made its way in somehow, but that thought quickly dissipated when I picked up the sound of squelching. Wet, slimy squelching. I don't walk into the kitchen at first. Instead, I move down to the opposite end of the wall that separates the kitchen from the living room. The thing creating the strange noise sounded like he was towards the far right of the kitchen, so I moved to the far left, which is also where the glass sliding door leading out to the lake was located. I put my back against the wall, slowly sliding along it while holding my bat, ready to swing. I then lean over, taking my time and utilizing precision as to not make too much noise and bring attention to myself. The sight laid in front of me is the sliding glass door shattered into a million pieces, as if something had just run full speed and smashed right through it. My grip on the bat tightens when I lay eyes upon a slimy trail of a black goo substance leading from my short dock on the lake all the way back to the glass sliding door, following through into the kitchen. But it wasn't only that. On the far end of the dock, I see a mangled and mutilated corpse of a large marine beast, appearing as if it were an alien-like catfish, bright green in its pigmentation, glowing as if there were copious amounts of radiation flowing through its veins. It had to be just near 10 feet in length, or at least I think it was. It's hard to tell when it's split in half and covered in the same black goo substance that was leading into my back door. I decide to quit wasting time, forcing my psyche to let me work up the courage to face this head on. I turn the corner, raising my bat like a rampaging Viking as I charge the creature residing in my kitchen. But my confidence had quickly faded when I finally saw what the thing actually looked like. And my God, was it hideous. It was about my height, bipedal in the way it stood, but that's where any sort of similarities had ended. The creature's skin was a scarlet red, bumps running along nearly every inch like he had intensive hives, poor thing. This entity had no eyes, no ears, or even a nose, but he did possess a mouth, a rectangular-shaped mouth that ran up the length of its head, filled with pitch black teeth that resembled the letter M in their shape. The feet at the bottom of his legs were webbed like that of an alligator, tracking the black goo into my kitchen floor. His arms were lengthy, but instead of fingers at the end of his hands, there were tentacles. Tentacles that were the same scarlet shade as the rest of his exterior anatomy. There were little mini blades jutting out that were made of something exotic enough for me to fail to name it. The creature booms with an ear-piercing screech upon seeing me, thrusting his arm forward and letting a tentacle extend out to me. I swung my bat in order to counter it, hitting the tentacle away from my immediate vicinity. This only causes the beast to screech again. So, this thing can be hurt and probably killed after all. It reached out with another tentacle. I swung the bat again to defend myself, but I missed miserably this time around. In response, it wraps its tentacle around the bat and yanks it right from my hands before proceeding to snap it in half, like it was nothing more than a simple twig. I dive for the kitchen knives, pulling out the biggest one as the creature swings at me with another tentacle. It connects with my shoulder, slicing the upper layer of my flesh and slamming me into the wall, just next to the sliding glass door. The creature slips and slides along the kitchen floor, clearly not adept at moving on land very well, but that works in my favor. It shoots out another tentacle towards my chest, and as I'm trying not to slip on the goo trail, I move backward a bit before pulling back the blade and then throwing it down in an axe-swinging motion, slicing a foot's length of tentacle off as a result. A dark red, nearly black goo oozing out from the wound. That really seemed to have pissed it off, because the thing dives forward at me, nearly slipping in the process. The creature tackles me, and we both tumble outside of the back door, rolling towards the dock, which meant I had also dropped the knife in all the chaos. I used the momentum to throw the horrendous thing off me and off to the side, attempting to get up and run back towards the house. But one of its tentacles wraps around my leg, making me fall onto my side, and it begins pulling me right back to it. Right to what I thought would have been my doom. The creature is resting on the edge of the dock, just a few feet above the water, as it pulls me towards it like a car attached to a crank. I tried digging my nails into the wood of the dock to stop the process, but looking back and seeing how close I was getting to him only made me lose hope. My foot was nearly within range to be chomped on by those weird-ass teeth. This was it. This would be the end. The same thought was only reinforced when the creature shrieked again, but this one sounded much more playful and excited in a sinister amusement kind of way. It was happy it had caught its prey. That's all I was to it. Prey. And without anything to defend myself, I was done for. But just as my foot is about to be clamped down on the creature's oddly shaped jaws, something explodes up from the lake below, bursting through the surface and causing a massive splash of water to occur, drenching my clothes and me in its wake. The new beast is what I can only describe as an enormous sea snake. Its length I couldn't fully comprehend at the time, but what I saw had to be 20 feet at the very least. Its width being multiple feet across. I'm sure its head alone was the size of a minivan, and that's me lowballing. The skin color of the aquatic snake was a dark, sickly yellow. Its eyes were what you'd expect from a reptilian life form, but that didn't mean they still weren't terrifying as all hell. Don't even get me started on its teeth. It had a lot. Far too many of them. Each at least twice the size of the kitchen knife I had used to dismember the tentacle beast. The massive sea snake lunges down onto the dock and bites the tentacle beast, sinking its teeth into the creature's legs and lifting it up off the dock. This caused the tentacle monstrosity to loosen its grip on my leg, setting me free long enough for me to move away. I quickly crawled forward, getting to my feet and turning to watch all this unfold. I know I should have run. I should have gotten in my car and driven away like there's no tomorrow, but it was far too mesmerizing, breathtaking, in a horrific and morbid sort of way. The Leviathan begins to thrash the tentacle beast around as it screams desperately for mercy, the sea snake splattering its blood in every possible direction, while Mr. Tentacle screeches his lungs out from the extended period of agony, throwing its slimy limbs around every which way in a futile attempt to escape. Emphasis on futile. Once Mr. Tentacle becomes motionless, and it's clear that his suffering had finally ended, not that I felt too bad for him, the Leviathan turned his attention to me, staring at me in a curious but simultaneously indifferent manner. "What are you looking at?" he grills, not moving as the corpse of the tentacle creature hangs from his slightly agape jaws. It speaks, I thought. This damn Leviathan-looking dude speaks. What the hell is going on? Yet, despite his size and intimidating appearance, his voice isn't much deeper than an average human male's. Thank you. You saved me," I replied with a shout, doing my best to be polite despite every survival alarm in my brain going off, telling me I should have cut and run right then and there. "Oh, well, you're welcome then. I'll be honest when I say I wasn't really trying to save you. I just heard the screeching of a submerged and was in the mood for a snack. The submerged are my favorite." I rub my eyes as I stand there like an idiot, wanting to make sure what I'm seeing was truly happening, and this wasn't some weird-ass dream. The sea snake chews and rips apart the remaining mass of the tentacle beast as I continue staring dumbfounded, like a child who has just walked in on their parents doing some naked wrestling. "The submerged? That's what you call these things? Meaning there's more of them?" "Yeah. Are you hard of hearing or something?" The aquatic reptile laughs. Huh, I thought, it laughs too. "So you don't want to hurt me then? Kill me? Tear me apart? Nothing like that?" "Clearly not. Human flesh isn't very delectable, in my opinion. Too dry. Not enough moisture. I would have clamped down on you too if I wanted to kill you." I somehow feel myself relax a bit, which seems stupidly impossible in a situation like this. But he really was telling the truth. If he truly wanted me dead, then that would have been the reality. Still, it was hard to completely wrap my head around such a revelation. "Well, I guess it's good to know that you don't want me as your side order because I was about to make a phone call to the military," I replied, only being half serious in my tone. "Figures. It's what a human would do. You're the first of your kind to have settled here. The few who have visited are either attacked by the submerged and other life here in the bottomless lake, or they simply flee. Usually the latter." "What else is all here?" I asked, gaining the courage to take a few steps forward. "And bottomless. Are you serious?" "You have much to learn, human. Much to learn. But staying above the surface for too long makes me feel sick. So I'll speak to you later, okay?" He utters with a sense of apathy, blinking at me with his piercing eyes. Wait, before you go. How did all this get here? How did you get here? I know it's a lot of questions, but I've never seen anything like this before. I didn't think things like you existed. And even if they did, you'd be locked up somewhere like Area 51. I mean, you said it yourself. Those things have attacked others, right? As I've told you, you'll come to learn. Now, you'll excuse me. I'm starting to feel a bit icky. But I'll see you around. You're more likely to encounter me over here. I much prefer the east side of the water. I'd avoid the west side if I were you. It's not a place for humans. Do you at least have a name? Something I could shout in case I need your help or I have a question? I plead, now moving even closer to the edge of the dock, feeling the tenseness in my muscles relax. The sea snake turns back, looking directly at me as he's just about to dive back underneath the surface of the murky water. And there's a silence, neither of us saying anything for several seconds. Refer to me as Levi, if that's what you really want, he proclaims rather softly, just before letting his body fall and send a sizable splash upwards as I watch him slowly disappear into the watery abyss below. I'm Howard, I try to shout before he's too deep under. But Levi doesn't resurface or pay me much mind. From what I saw just before he dived down and exposed more of his body mass, I estimate him to be around 60 feet in total length, tripling what he had already revealed to me when he was killing the submerged entity. Now, most people would have simply left after this, gone far, far away to the opposite side of the planet. But I didn't. I trusted Levi, even though many people would say I shouldn't. He saved my life, and I wanted to repay him, as weird as that sounds. I thought perhaps I'd purchase a gun and speedboat and go see what the west side of the lake is all about with the help of Levi. I wanted to know what I'm up against while living here, which means I need to learn as much as I can so I'm able to set up defenses and countermeasures accordingly. I've never been the bravest person ever, but this was an opportunity to change that. Anyway, this is the end of my entry for now. I'll come back to you all with another update soon enough. Next time you hear from me, I'll probably share my experience with the west side of the lake.